Hi, welcome to the Voice of Bold Business Radio. I am your host, Jess Dewell. You are listening to Lasting Change, which is program 169. You're in the right place for conversations about problems and needs that we face as leaders in business today. For us to be able to develop ourselves, to be able to impact the results of our organizations and create lasting culture, to have inner tenacity is what this program is all about. And inner tenacity both for us and for our teams. The more tenacity we have, the higher we bounce when we fall. Today, talking about lasting change with me is Christine Bowen, who brings over 25 years of combined experience in visual communication, professional networking, and personal development. She is dedicated to serving as a creative consultant to entrepreneurs. And also with us today is Jade Alexander, the founder of Synergy Videography. Synergy Videography provides a stress-free experience that captures your unique brand, establishes trust, and creatively shares your message through video marketing. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome to the Voice of Bold Business, the show that provides everything smart leaders need to evaluate situations, build relationships, and create solutions. Jessica Dewell candidly talks about the skills necessary to build tenacity and do more with less. And now, here's Jessica.
Hey, Christine, what's your secret for lasting change?
Well, Jess, change is something that we all say, we being the masses, that change happens. And my philosophy is always to be proactive and create change. So when I think of change, I think of always, I don't even think of, I recite the Serenity Prayer. A lot of us are familiar with this, but I'll just say it for the record. Dear God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And this is something that I keep top of mind, because when change happens, we can look at it two ways. One of two ways. It's either happening to us or it's happening for us. And so through the Serenity Prayer, I look at acceptance as detachment. Detachment meaning being fluid with what's going to happen, because change is going to happen, whether we like it or not. Change is going to happen. So accepting what is the first step. And then the second part of the prayer is the courage to create the change. So that's where we overcome fear, or I like to keep it positive and say we exercise faith. Exercise our faith in that we have the ability to create change. We have the ability to take the circumstance and navigate through it purposefully as opposed to willy-nilly. And then last but certainly not least, the wisdom to know the difference. And that to me is a conscious thing. It's not that we have to know how to do everything. Most times we don't even know how to deal with change, but how I deal with it is through stillness, through consciousness, and just gaining the answers from an infinite source that gives me the power, the strength, the wisdom to take action. So that's my secret to lasting change.
Jade, what is your secret to lasting change?
I feel like change is something that you cannot control. Even if you make a conscious decision, you can't always control what happens. And I will give an example of this situation and what I chose to do with it. Some of you that follow us on social media will know that our HR department is a 10-pound Italian Greyhound Dachshund. And we got her under random circumstances from a shelter on her birthday, you gotta keep that in mind for HR. We went back to donate some money and clothes, the things that the dogs need, the toys and things like that. The place was closed. They had shut down and we were too late to help them. So I had taken the time to talk to some people, and I vented and I said, I feel so bad. I was too late. And what it really took at that point was just make an adjustment, make that change, and go donate to another shelter, so that those animals have another chance. So I wasted time and energy talking about what should have been done, what I wasn't able to do, how I failed them, and instead looked in a way that I could actually do something to help the change in the future. And I feel like a lot of people look at change as things that happened, or they look back at it and say, I wish I could, that whole hindsight 2020 thing. And the fact is, you can't do anything about it. So you need to become proactive, actually take action. And that can be scary and that can be hard. But instead of doing nothing, and instead of saying, what am I going to do? Make a decision and do something, because you never know how that's going to affect things in the future. And it's like my dad said, do the best with what you have. And that's all we can do at that point.
The stage has been set for this conversation now. And both of the answers talk about consciousness, making conscious choice. A time that you weren't conscious and realized it, and then switched into a conscious mode to change the situation. And Jade, you've already given one example, so I'm going to ask you for another.
That's okay.
But I'm just curious, as a starting point, what would that look like?
I'm a visual communicator. And so that means I need my eyes to see so that I can create. Earlier this year, around January, I had just relocated. I had all of my plans, and one of my favorite quotes is, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And so I had all these grandiose plans of, my plan of action for 2018, and this is what I'm going to hit the ground running. And right around the third week of January, I noticed that I was having difficulty seeing. My vision was very blurry, very sensitive to light, and I tried to ignore it, just saying, okay, it's just all in my mind, or perhaps it's a change in the environment. Long story short, it turned out to be severe dry eye syndrome. Jess, Jade, I couldn't see up close, far, nothing. I was completely disabled. Now, initially, I felt like it was happening to me. I was like, woe is me. Oh no, what's going on? How am I going to, sustain my clients? And I had a new contract actually that I had just picked up, a big one. And literally the day after I was diagnosed, and I had to go to the client and say, oops, I can't see for about 6 to 8 weeks. And so, yeah, panic mode.
Right.
However, in the stillness, as I mentioned earlier, becoming consciously aware of the situation and seeking a deeper meaning and understanding of why this was happening to me at the time, it helped me to understand that there was a bigger picture that I needed to focus on, which is, first of all, the gift of being able to see, but also the fact that I'm here for that purpose. Jess, you may recall in many of our conversations in the past, I've been shying away from going full time with my consulting as a visual communicator. Well, this experience made it explicitly clear that that is the reason that this change happened, for me to have a shift in my perception of myself, my belief in myself, why I'm here to serve and who I'm here to serve.
Are you over that and on to the next part of what life has to offer and bring us? And use?
That was my question.
Thanks for asking. Good question. Yes, I, as you can see, I've now joined the club of 4 eyes. I was always a contact lens wearer in the past. And yes, I've done so for better part of 25 years wearing contact lenses. And I think my eyes simply got tired. And so my doctors, both my ophthalmologist, optometrist, said, wear glasses, give your eyes a break. And quite honestly, this is the best, sharpest vision I have had in my entire life. So I'm happy to say that my vision is now 20/20.
Welcome to the club.
Woohoo! I think I kind of like it.
Yeah.
That's
I
amazing.
get to see more Christine accessories.
I'm an avid contact user. I use them all the time, and I've noticed my eyes are getting drier. So now I know I need to maybe look into that. So thank you. You've done me a service as well by telling your story.
Absolutely. Glad I could help.
So one thing that I will say happened to me, because that's how I used to look at it, is for those of you that don't know, I was a very extreme athlete. I did a lot of different stuff because I could, because I enjoyed it. I was a figure skater, a martial artist. I was talented enough to be a ballroom dance instructor on Royal Caribbean. So I had done all these athletic things. There was a point where I just wasn't happy with the amount of athleticism I was doing, and I wanted to do more. So I started pushing more. And in doing so, I popped my knee. it would be diagnosed it was broken. It was tendons, just everything moved around. The kneecap slipped to one side and continued to slip after it fell the first time. I couldn't understand how I was going to have the life that I've always had when I couldn't run anymore. I couldn't skate. I couldn't dance. I couldn't even slow dance. And I was disabled in this giant beanbag I had left over from college. It was really cool. So at least that part was fun. I was kind of tossed in the beanbag and ice packs, and I was kind of having to be waited on hand and foot for almost a month. I couldn't take a shower by myself. I couldn't get lunch. I couldn't do anything for myself. And I remember being in this situation of, what am I going to do? Like, this is my life now. I can't do anything I used to love. And started doing physical therapy. That started helping. I started walking again. And I was so excited that I did an aerial jump, demonstrating it for someone else, and I broke it again. It's my second time doing it. And I didn't learn from the first time to pace myself and to not get too excited and to not push myself beyond what my body could handle. And they say it all the time, your mind is stronger than your body. And my mind wanted it so bad that I thought I could do it, and I didn't. And I redid it in front of some of my students, some of my dance students, and it was awful. And I once again had to be drug home and tossed in the beanbag. Luckily, HR was there with me at the time, and she was very supportive HR department we have. So check her out on Instagram. She's a lot of fun. And then I was sitting there again. I'm like, why do I keep doing this? Is it always going to be this way? And what I decided was, I need to slow down my brain. I need to focus on getting better. And this time I need to actually have discharge papers from my PT saying that I'm healthy and saying that it's time. And when you get setbacks, when you have an injury like this, you twist it walking up the stairs or getting out of your car or whatever it happens to be, that it's okay. And to not get caught up with, it's happening again, or I'm never going to. That never word is really hard to fight. But to be like, it's a setback. It sucks. This is not fun. But to not push it before you're ready and to not keep making that mistake. And even though the change happened, I would never wish this upon anybody. It's god awful. But to get around it and to still have the quality of life that you deserve, just modified.
There's a lot of mindset talk happening here. And in this concept of mindset for lasting change, these personal shifts in mindset. I mean, I hear what I'm taking in and experiencing and listening and feeling around this. I'm curious, what do you think about the role of mindset and how to have the mindset needed to make change last?
Dr. Wayne Dyer, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at begin to change. So it's all about perception. It's how we are analyzing, absorbing, accepting, responding, rather than reacting to circumstances like Jade, like myself, like you, Jess, like all of us. We're all facing change, and mindset is something that we can invest in daily, and we should actually. Many of us, especially in today's world, are focused on physical health, eating better, taking the right nutrients into our bodies, moving more. We're a very health conscious society now. However, mental health is something that I feel we could focus on even more. I think it should be a daily practice, just like our physical health is a daily practice, exercising our mind, exercising our brain, flexing our creative muscles. I may be veering a little bit off of lasting change. However, I do believe it has everything to do with creating lasting change, because anything that comes our way, whether it's in business or life, we will be better equipped to handle those circumstances. So it's putting a little foresight into it, building that mental muscle.
I'll have to say that mindset is a newer concept for me. I do have a background in psychology. That's what my minor was in. And, you always talk about learning the mind, and the mind breaks before the body, and people can't get help until they're ready to get help, and all that side of things. But that was always in a negative way when I learned it in school. But as of recent, I have been reading this book by Tanya Waring, and it's this manifesting mindset. And I was like, okay, this sounds dumb. I'll be honest with you. I'm not into that kind of stuff, self-healing, let's feel good. But it was
shout out, Tanya.
Yeah, just kidding.
We're actually loving on you.
We are loving on you. And the reason I say that I thought it was dumb was because I didn't think it worked. I always had the mindset that I was used to of just get it done, do the best you can, get it done. And the thing is, if you don't think ahead, if you don't put your mind towards the things that you really want, whether that's in a vision board, if that's writing down your goals, not changing up here will never have changed anywhere else. And so within days of reading this book, okay, days, I'm not kidding, like 48 hours, things started happening for me because of how I changed my mind, and I wanted them to happen. And they manifested. They literally manifested, and I didn't think it was true. So I called her. I was like, hey, didn't know that this could happen. And she's just like, I'm so glad you're a skeptic, and I changed you because it's out there. And I have told everyone that thinks like I do, that trained mind of limitation and limiting yourself, to look at this and just to try one of the 6 steps. Like, try it, see what happens. And it's shocking what you can do if you just adjust. It's not a change. People are afraid of change. And I think that's why we're on this topic. It's not like a hardcore change. It's just a tweak. It's just a new way to look at something. And it makes all the difference.
We need to break some more boards. So Christine, at Gary Barnes' Business Mastery Bootcamp, one of the activities is breaking a board. And so with our bare hands, which is kind of cool and fun. And on one side, it's all your limiting beliefs. And on the other side, it's what you're breaking through to. And so I've now done this twice, as has Jade. And I have to tell you, it's quite an experience. And then everything that you talk about on a daily basis, Christine, the things that you share across social media in your visual presentation, create that openness and that willingness for somebody to try something different, for us to really think about that and go, yeah, I guess it's not that hard. I'm thinking about what you both said, and I'm also thinking about this concept of receiving help and that it's all in our brain. So do we have to receive to be able to fully give?
I believe it's a cyclical process. Actually, today's meditation is about the law of giving and receiving. That's from the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. Mm-hmm. And so giving and receiving go hand in hand. And this is something it's a learned behavior for me in terms of receiving. My mom always lived by example in terms of giving. She will give. You know, the last morsel of food, she will willingly. And I love that about her. And that's where I get my giving spirit from. Yet I realized, especially as an adult and an entrepreneur, that I tended to want to do things on my own. Jess, you're familiar with this because when Jess and I met, she was actually very instrumental in teaching me how to receive help and accept help. Yes, you were, honey. Thank you for that. 2014 that's when we met. That was a very pivotal year for me in terms of being able to receive, because through my reception, my ability to receive, I should say, that's where my internet show was born. That's where people were pointing out things about me that were in my blind spot, or that I knew but I was covering up or afraid to embrace, which was my own power. And through other people and their reflection of who they saw me to be, man, I have created the most amazing changes in my life, positive changes, more so than I could have ever imagined or done on my own.
So there was a point that I got to meet somebody very special, and that was Dave Kramer with All Pro Web Tools. Some of you may know him. Hashtag Dave is awesome. And he kind of did the same thing with us. He used to be in my industry, and he's wanted to do more. He asked me to come by his office, and I was like, okay, well, I don't really know what you're talking about, but sure, why not? I'm an open book, whatever. And he gave me tools that I didn't have because I was so new. I was just out of college. I really wanted to be the best, and I just got a new equipment and cameras and software. I was so excited. And he's like, that's great. You need to do these things just to get off the ground. And what he gave me changed things in like months, like super fast. And I said, I need to pay you. I need to give you something. He's like, you're a startup. Don't be stupid. I was like, okay. Well, he didn't say it like that. He was a lot nicer, but he's just like, hang on to it. You need it. And I said, well, what do I do? And he said, just pass it on to the next person that needs it most. And because I was open to getting help, even though I didn't want it, because I was afraid he wanted something in return. Does he want money? Does he want me to get out there and do subscription? Does he want free videos? What does he want? And he just wanted to help. And that was such a new idea to me, because that's not what I had learned in school. That's not what society had taught me so far. And I've done that over and over again because of him. And I actually have a Zoom meeting with him once a month just to be myself and normal and give him something different in his day. And I've done these things, and these people have gone forth and done it again. So it's not about that being ready to receive back from this. It's that domino effect to make these changes throughout the world, and people being willing to and knowing there aren't strings attached from human kindness, because human kindness isn't something that we often see, and we're slowly bringing it back. And I'm very excited for that.
That's one of the things that I'd like to be a result for those that listen to the Voice of Bold Business Radio, is the importance of kindness to self first and kindness to others as well. And just an overall compassion, because we all are walking our own path. And, I'm thinking about the things that you're saying. I'm thinking about how it plays out into some of the experiences I've had recently. And what it comes down to for me is that, once I decide on something, okay, so here's an interesting thing, right, about change. Once I decide on something, and I'm just going to randomly pick something that has been on my radar in the last year. Okay, so we're going to talk about making sure that I have the most energy. I want more energy. My energy seems to be depleted, and it's hard here and there, now and again. I can't sustain that. Before I continue, can you hear the background noise? Okay.
A little bit.
Good.
My hearing's really good though, so.
And that's why, because I got kids yelling right outside my office door. It's summertime, and everybody's here this afternoon, so good. Perfect stopping point, and then coming back in. Let me come back to what I was talking about, though. What was I talking about?
You were talking about the reason Bold Business Exchange is so good for.
Oh, yes. Okay. Got it. I'm out of energy. I'm feeling a little low, and it's really hard. So I decided to make a change. In fact, I decided to make 2 changes. Just random. I could have done a lot of things. These were the 2 that I thought would be the easiest to do. And that was eat meals at a regular time. Okay. So I eat, and I eat healthy. I don't necessarily eat often enough for my body to understand that it's not starving. So note to self, sync up, right? So that was an idea. I was like, no problem. That'll be easy. The other one was ensure I get at least 7 hours of sleep, because that's my optimum is 7. I tend to run off of 5 or 6 very well for eons of time before I get tired. So I'm like, well, that's really easy. Well, guess what? If I want to get 7 hours of sleep, that means I have to be brushing my teeth at 9:30 at night. I am not ready to be doing that. And so all of a sudden I have less time to work with. And when I have less time to work with because I've decided to allocate it to something else, I really, every day for the first 2 weeks, just this sleep thing, it was, man, no, I'm going to go ahead and stay up and do this last thing. I really love this new book that I'm reading about whatever I happen to be reading about at the time. And I find that very fascinating from the sense that we forget that there's a give and a take, and we all have 24 hours in a day, and how we use it and what our thoughts are about it are very interesting. And we can make a decision to do something, yet when we actually decide to do it, we may not be able to experience or think ahead to all of the repercussions. Like all of a sudden I have 90 minutes less in a day. And so then I had to think, all right, if I'm going to do this, I can brush my teeth earlier or I can get up later. And then I had to think, right? And so I tried both. And I was like, nope, I'm a morning person. I'm going to wake up anyway. I have to start getting ready for bed earlier, changing my routine to make and maximize that. That one thing, the other part too, right? Eating at regular times is a whole other story. The one thing around sleep though, it inadvertently was like, I forgot there was going to be this other piece. And now I have to face that. And how important is it really How important is it really? And most people might have are going to have their reaction and their choice. And whatever their choice is right for them. It's in line with their values. It's in line with what's important to them. And when we act and prioritize, for example, sleeping less, we must accept the outcome, less energy. And of course, each of those examples, we can insert our own into that fairly easily. Really an if-then statement, if-then statement. So sometimes it's hard to figure out what's going to show up now that we've made this decision for change. And to me, I think that's the hardest part. Mindset gives me the courage to get there. Then it's like, do I have the discipline to stick with this? How much do I really want this? Can I put a stake in the ground and go, yes, I want this now. I want this. And when we get to that point and we really want it, what are some tips for people who are facing that to really truly evaluate, I want this?
It puts the analogy in mind of catching a butterfly. The easiest way to catch a butterfly is to not chase it. We just sit calmly and they'll come to us. And that's how results come to us. It goes back to that law of detachment I was speaking about earlier with the Serenity Prayer. Part of acceptance is the ability to give it our all, put everything we have into what we desire. Of course, there's a lot of precursor to that, being aligned and all of this. However, once that's in place and we are going after what we want, there's a point that we must be able to say, I have done all that I can do, and we let go and allow ourselves to receive the result, as opposed to getting frustrated of trying to create a result. It's not happening the way I want it. Oh my gosh. And do things ever happen the way we want them to? The exact time?
I think the outcomes might, but the way we get there, not so much.
Exactly. Yes. And that's the part as human beings that drive us bonkers. And that's the part of creating change that I believe we as human units must accept, is we don't have control over the how. All we have control is over our thoughts, our actions, giving it our best, and just allowing the universe to play its part and trusting that it will come to pass.
Hold your answer for just a second, Jade. I want a follow-up question for you, Christine. Mm-hmm. Acceptance keeps coming up. Will you define acceptance in your own words for this? Because I believe it'll add context and more glue to the conversation that we're having.
Absolutely. Acceptance to me is letting go of the how. It's surrender. It's trust. It's realizing that whatever the circumstance is, there is a reason for it, in terms of we can learn from it, grow from it, refine our skills, whatever the case is. What seems like a tragic or just crazy circumstance is actually something that is there to refine us. I truly believe that. Make us sharper, make us more aware, make us more alert. So acceptance to me is a detachment, if you will, from what is happening. It's kind of like a third person view of the situation, as opposed to being in the middle of it. So stepping outside of the frame to see that picture and say, oh, okay, this is what's happening. That's acceptance to me.
Thank you for that. And
good answer.
That underpins everything that you've been saying in a more concrete way. And I don't define acceptance that way. So it's really cool to have more of your viewpoint in this conversation. All right, Jade, what are some tips that you have that you could say, hey, this is how I know I want this and I'm going to go for it?
So there's a lot of ways that a lot of schools of thought for this. The one that I always liked is nothing worth having comes easily. So to really, have the grit, have the desire to do this. The saddest book I have ever read in my entire life was Where the Red Fern Grows. Those of you that know the story, I'll try not to ruin it for you if you haven't read it. And if you haven't read it and you want to know the story really fast, go to Thug Notes. It's on there. It's a great channel. It's really funny. And it's kind of, all those high school books and middle school books that you hated reading. He just does a synopsis of them in a very educational and fun way. But for those of you that have read it, you will know that this main character does everything he can. He works for months and years to make all this money of doing horrible things because he wanted hunting dogs so bad and he wanted 2 of them. And he worked and struggled and fought. And when he finally got them, there was the reward of that. And then there was all this work he had to do with them, but they enriched his life and made him who he was. And I feel like that is a great part of the story. And again, it's the saddest story I've ever read. So, don't read it unless you want to cry. I've not met anyone that read that story that didn't cry. So enjoy that one. But if it's worth it, then you will do what you have to get the outcome you want. So I like Jess's example of the toothbrushing thing and what are you sacrificing and what are you getting out of it, and going to bed earlier versus, what works for you best. If you want something, you'll put off something else so that you have the time to brush your teeth at the right time, or you'll find a way to squeeze those 90 minutes in somewhere else or give up something because that end result is worth so much to you. So really determining what it's worth to you, start thinking of things like, okay, we'll give you this example of, okay, I really want to go to this event, this concert or whatever. Well, if I skip Starbucks every Friday and I do that for 3 months, then I can afford to go, or however you want to look at it like that. Is it worth skipping the Starbucks to have that one day? That's up to you, but you have to want it. I feel like in these examples that we're all providing it, I don't want to say if you build it, they will come, but if you want it, sacrifice for it because it will be worth it and it'll be so much richer when you get it.
This concept of instant gratification, that's an executive function. Can I put off a reward for a period of time to get a greater reward later? And that's a little bit what you were talking about with your example of Starbucks and the movie tickets, instant gratification versus delayed gratification. Now, when we're talking about business, shoot, everything is a delayed gratification experience. Right. Do you tend towards instant gratification?
That's a great question. I want to say no. I want to say I'm not one of those people, but I'm human. And I am the kind of person that will have, the Butterfinger bar because I can have it 20 minutes before lunch than to wait for lunch. That is the kind of person I am, which is why I feel like the non-instant gratification, that down the road kind, can mean so much more for the people that like instant gratification. If we were good at waiting, we would wait for lunch, but no, we want the candy bar and lunch. We want both, right? So I feel like if you can train that, if you can learn that, especially in business, when you get there, it is so awesome. And I feel like for the people that want the instant gratification, it's worth 1,000 times more than those of you that are patient. And I don't know how you have the patience that you do. My business partner has been compared to having the patience of Job for you people out there, because he has to deal with me and my craziness and the craziness of everyone else. He's super calm and he's a great guy, which is why we keep him. But for people like him, he's used to waiting. It's like, oh, okay, it's worth it in the end. People like me that are like, I want it right now and I have to wait. But then when you finally get it, it's like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. And I made it and I did it. And so you have all these goals and things on top of it that reinforces that good things come to those who wait, especially in your business, because it's your dream. It's what your livelihood is. It's something that you're bringing to the table and solving problems that other people can't do as well as you. And I feel like that is so magical in its own way. And that gratification you get on top of it, it's like triple bonus points. It's just, there's nothing that compares.
It's like finding the right equation of instant gratification to delayed gratification to help. And that's only, and we were trained that way. Okay. So I don't know about you guys, but I got stickers for this and stickers for that. And we got trophies for everything. Actually, I was the last generation where I kind of got trophies for everything. And I kind of got told you lose and you don't get one, but we're in the middle of that. And when we have that as our mentality, we have to approach changing our mindset, our executive function differently. And for those of us who always never got a medal or a reward or something like that, we want it so bad. We're like, we can do whatever we want. We're adults now. And then it's a concept of how much though? How much? So it's an interesting equation that I think is very personal and very telling. And also can be used. I mean, we can look at our values probably and be able to apply this to, here's what I'm willing to wait for and here's what I'm not. And as long as I know that, I can make better decisions quicker. Nope, sorry, not joining you in 5 months to go get a candy bar. But if you want to go have dinner tonight, I'm in. Whatever that case may be. So that's a great example. That's a great example, Jade. Let's talk about personal power. Because sometimes we feel like we're giving it up, right? That's what we were just talking about with instant gratification. We feel like we're giving something up. We feel like we must sacrifice to get this something bigger. I'm curious, do we really? And what would you say about that?
If our nature, regardless of who we are, there are some people that are more patient than others. I pride myself on the patience I do have, yet I still want instant gratification. I want to feel good now. I want to feel good for my efforts now. And I believe that that's where we can empower ourselves by celebrating the wins along the way. We don't have to get to that end point. Success, as they say, is not a destination, it's the journey. And when we look at it that way, when we shift our mindset and look at the changes that we're creating, instead of waiting for some kind of delayed gratification, why not celebrate along the way? Why not celebrate today's wins? What did I accomplish today? And celebrate it in a great way. This is how we empower ourselves. You spoke about personal power. Well, to me, this is what it's about. Self-care, self-love. I talk about courting yourself. Well, this is our chance. So if we set out a plan this morning to crush the day, and we had, like, let's say 5 things on our today list, as I call them, and we completed 3 out of 5, okay, there's 2 mindsets we can adopt. The fixed mindset, where we're like, oh, I am so not good at this. I didn't complete my 5. When am I ever going to get there? And then it creates this cascade of feeling bad and delaying getting to that end point. Whereas if we look at the day and say, oh my gosh, we just I completed 3 of my things to do today. I totally crushed it. I'm going to buy myself a bottle of wine. Oops, am I giving myself away? Well, here we go. This is how I court myself. Yes, buy my bottle of wine, share it with my bestie, and we sit down and talk about the wins. And that gives you the motivation, the inspiration to get up and do it again the next day. So that's my answer, is celebrate the wins along the way, because we can feel good. We don't have to suffer.
The one thing you can always control is yourself, right? So you get to determine your own self-power, your own self-worth. And I think that's very important to understand the balance of. I am of a little bit different mindset than my dear new friend, Christine, that do have to sacrifice. You don't have to suffer, but I do feel like you have to sacrifice. And the reason I give this example, I do not know who this quote is from. So if you happen to know, please message me and tell me who said it. But it goes something like this: you have to feel the rain to know how good the sun feels. So I'm not saying you have to sacrifice in order to have power, in order to be great at what you do, but I don't think you can appreciate what you have until you sacrifice or have seen sacrifice firsthand.
I completely agree. It's not all a bed of roses. My perspective today comes from many years of holding on to my baggage, holding on to things that don't go right, and allowing those to hold me back. And so putting a positive spin on how I'm looking at my circumstance is my coping mechanism. Yet, yeah. There's tons of sacrifice. It's not all, holding hands and running through the meadows with butterflies flying around and all that stuff. We would like it to be, and we can look at it that way. However, there's tremendous amount of sacrifice involved, physically, spiritually, mentally, personally, financially. Yeah, Jade, I'm on the same page as you there.
I love that you incorporated the Serenity Prayer. That's actually, when I was at my lowest point, that was one that I recited and really believed in and got on top of. And no matter what your religious background, however you want to look at it, it does apply if you look at the text itself. Just, it's so impacting to know that there are things you can do, there are things that you can't do. But the one thing you can do is have wisdom to learn. And I feel like that's a lot what we're getting out of the Bold Business Exchange here, is that people are sharing and learning from each other, and there's this exchange of knowledge. And I think it's excellent with what we're able to put together between all of us. And I'm so grateful that you shared that. I would love that you started with that, because that just got my heart a pitter-patter over here.
Yay.
I'm all about doing the work. And, the words that we put around do the work, I think, are very personal. And what I hear you both saying is that there's this element of, it's not easy. It's not the stuff that we're good at that actually gets us to be who we are and to really reinforce how we look at the world and what we define as opportunity. I want this conversation to go on, and we can't, at least not today. We can another day. Now, this last part, it's about being bold, right? The voice of Bold Business Radio. I'd like to know from you, what makes it bold to do the work for lasting change?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. What makes it bold to do the work to get lasting change?
Boldness is action. We're living in a society, we're all human units here, so we have moments, times where we feel paralyzed by circumstance. We may feel, I should say. And the more severe the circumstance, the more paralyzed we may feel. And on top of everything that we've shared over the course of our discussion here today, it boils down to having the courage to take action, to change our circumstance. Like Jade said, we are in control of ourselves, our thoughts, our actions, and that's being bold. It's taking action in a world where most people don't. Taking action in a world where most people cower or reside or live in fear because of the changes they see happening around them. And so as entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs at that, we must be the change that we wish to see in this world. And to me, that's boldness, is just having the courage to step up and say, I may not know everything, I may not know the how, but by golly, I'm going to do this every day.
Lasting change, A, it's lasting, and B, it's not easy, is going to take a certain amount of bravery. And I feel like that has been touched on with courage, but courage and bravery are two different things. Being willing to take the risks, being willing to put yourself out there, to fail, to get to the ledge and be like, I can do this. I've got a parachute. Let's go. And you're certain when you jump off that thing's going to open, which for some of us, it doesn't open that are in business, right? But you had to be brave enough to take the jump. And I think any lasting change that is worth the sacrifice, worth the fight, and worth jumping for and risking it all for, that is what makes it bold. And I think that is so important for us as entrepreneurs, as your support team, as stewards is the word that Jess likes to use, is that we have to be willing to take that jump and to take it together. Let's be that awesome dive team that you always see on the internet holding hands and making starfish and stuff. Like, let's do that, but we don't have to do it alone. Let's do it together.
We've been talking about lasting change. The question that Christine and Jade answered is, what is your secret to lasting change? This program is filled with tidbits, inspiration, and usable actions right now. Take what you will, try something new, and make sure to check in for the full detail at voiceofboldbusiness.com/P169. That's voiceofboldbusiness.com/P for program 169. You may also search the site for lasting change. You've listened, you've heard. Rate how our conversation was. Is it useful? Tell us what you want. Keep this conversation going. What are you doing to create lasting change in your world? Because using hashtag VBB Radio, sending an email, radio@reddirection.com, and even leaving comments on your preferred listening platform, as well as subscribing to see new programs as they are released, is what we are doing. It is an active conversation. And what it means to be a leader today takes your voice, my voice, the guest's voice is, the guest's voices, and collectively, we are making that definition. We are choosing how do we want to show up. We are choosing that capacity in which we want to be effective and create impact. Thank you for being here today, and make sure and continue this conversation and tell us, how are you creating lasting change?
Subscribe at thevoiceofboldbusiness.com and get more information, program notes, and past episodes. Bold leaders approach each situation and focus on action to achieve a higher level of leadership. Jessica Dewell, your business advocate, is the host of the Voice of Bold Business Radio. Thank you for joining us.